That's not how Indian girls act. You're disrespecting our culture. You're disrespecting my religion. Cover up. This culture that they're referring to is the traditional culture back in my homeland. But I'm a diaspora. Like, I was raised in America. And I was also abused by the people who brought me up from whatever could fit in a suitcase. I represent Indian American culture.
Why do Desi people reject Desi people? I feel like there's a huge gap between American Indians and Indian Indians. Personally, I've lived a culture and lived a life in both places. I have lived in India in 10 years and I have lived in the United States for 16 years.
I saw an interesting video the other day talking about the hierarchy of Indian Americans over Indian Indians in America. It was by Kavi. I'll tag her below. I thought it was really interesting because I've actually experienced it the other way around as an Indian American. And this is truly no hate to her. I totally believe her experience. I am not saying that this is like negating everything she's been through.
Hello, good people. Welcome to African Commentary. Here we learn and grow every day. And if you're new here, kindly consider subscribing, liking, and sharing the videos. I will really appreciate. So, in today's video, we are going to talk about Indians from India versus Indian Americans. I didn't know that these people don't get along. And so before I speak much, let's hear some experiences from Indian Americans of how they have been treated by their people from India, like Indians in India. So I hope you're getting what I say. Without speaking much, let's watch the videos and then I'm going to give my 2 cents at the end. Also, let me know what you think about this in the comment section down below.
Why do Desi people reject Desi people? I feel like there's a huge gap between American Indians and Indian Indians. Personally, I've lived a culture and lived a life in both places. I have lived in India in 10 years and I have lived in the United States for 16 years. And I remember when I moved from India to the US in high school, the people that welcomed me weren't my Indian community at my school. In fact, none of them ever talked to me or ever batted an eye at me or looked in my direction. People that welcomed me were literally everybody else. In college too, I was called a fob quite a bit, and I just feel like there's this large gap and stigma around embracing Indian culture as an Indian person, especially an Indian American person. And I do appreciate that now people are a lot more welcoming and destigmatizing this, but I just wish that it happened when I was a kid because God knows, like, it really damaged my self-worth. I just feel like people should be kind to everybody around them.
I saw an interesting video the other day talking about the hierarchy of Indian Americans over Indian Indians in America. It was by Kavi. I'll tag her below. I thought it was really interesting because I've actually experienced it the other way around as an Indian American. And this is truly no hate to her. I totally believe her experience. I am not saying that this is like negating everything she's been through. I believe what she has gone through. I just think it's so interesting because as an Indian American, I have felt the exact same feelings that she felt in that video by Indian Indians, and like she felt it vice versa. So I was just like, that's so crazy. Like, what are we even doing it all for? And why can't we all just get along? Like, why is there this need to like feel like we are better than the other because we came from a different place? We're all still Indian at the baseline of it. But like I was and I noticed this, I think she might have mentioned that she noticed this more when she was younger and growing up. I actually noticed this more in my adulthood and like in college and adulthood afterwards. It is actually very hard for me to make Indian friends that last. I have a couple, love them so dearly, but most of them are queer. Outside of that, I feel like when people find out that I am queer or that like I am like politically more left-leaning, not more left-leaning, fully left-leaning, um or like I'm not like this skinny gal, or I don't come from money, it's all of a sudden like, we don't want to be friends with you. And I'm like, wait, what? Or I'll tell people that I'm fluent in Telugu and like we'll have a conversation and they'll be like, well, that's not how you say that. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. But there's also like 1,000 different dialects of each language. Like people can say things different ways. So I think I started to notice that more in college, and that's just because I was exposed to more Indian Indians in college versus like most of my friend group growing up was just Indian American. But I think it opens up just an interesting conversation about like why one feels better than the other or like hierarchically above the other, and how it can be true for both situations because I don't know. I think like for me personally, as an Indian American, I don't really classify it that way. Whenever people ask me who I am, I just say Indian. Then like they'll ask me where I'm from, and like then I'll be like Hyderabad, or like, but I wasn't born there, so like Reno, Nevada. Like, what answer do you want? But if I say I'm born in America and it's like to somebody born in India, it's like immediately being shut down. I'm like, but I want to be friends. I think we could be friends. Why can't we all just get along? Anyways, that's my little rant on that. I just find it interesting. What's y'all's experience? And I would just love to hear more stories. And I think that talking about this more might make us all more easily be able to be friends, because I would love to just all get along. And just because like the way we grew up was different, or, you know, we went through like different things and all of that. We've all been through our shit though, you know? So like one doesn't make it any better than the other.
One thing I've noticed is that the Indian community is a little bit segregated. Indians from India have their own community and networks, and then American-born Indians, same thing, have their own community and networks. And of course there are events that bring the two together, but just recently I went to a rooftop party hosted by some guys from Bangalore, and I was one of the few American-born Indians on the rooftop. I went to a Nikhil Kamath event a month or so ago, and same thing, I was one of the only American-born Indians in the room. And I find it interesting because both sides are really cool, and there could be a lot of value by bringing these communities and sides together. And one thing I hear from the India side is that American Indians can be a little cliquey, and I've heard that from a few people now. So I think we can unlock a lot of value in networks by bringing the two sides together, and that's what I'm going to be working on with whatever I do.
Alright, call me fucking crazy, but I wouldn't call it internal racism, I would call it an assimilation and an identity crisis. And maybe it was just me, but the culturally Indian home life was completely different than my social American life outside of home. Also, I'm not hard to make friends with, like, bye.
Indian people make it so hard to be Indian. And honestly, I want to hear your guys' thoughts on this, because I cannot be the only one who feels this way. It's like, if you're an Indian person and you speak about something, the people that are gonna hit you the hardest are gonna be other Indian people, and that's just wild to me. It's like Indian people are your harshest critics, which doesn't really make sense to me. Personally, for me, if I see another Indian person sharing their views or their thoughts, good, bad, whatever, I'm gonna be all for it. You know, I'm gonna be supportive of it. Of course, like, if I don't agree to something in some extent, I'm not gonna bash in the comments. And at the end of the day, I'm not gonna let negative comments from the people in my community or my ethnic background get to me. That's not what I'm saying. It's not getting to me at all. However, it is just wild to me. It's kind of like me sitting there thinking about it like, wow, it is tragic that people of the same background as me ethnically can be so sad and cruel and disappointing.
That's not how Indian girls act. You're disrespecting our culture. You're disrespecting my religion. Cover up. This culture that they're referring to is the traditional culture back in my homeland. But I'm a diaspora. Like, I was raised in America. And I was also abused by the people who brought me up from whatever could fit in a suitcase. I represent Indian American culture. I don't claim the sexism, the racism, the slut shaming, and the pale skin ass kissing that we see a lot of times in the homeland. I'm making a new culture. Like, a lot of the times, it'll be, like, obviously the men back at home that'll say this, or even, like, here that'll say this. But, like, sometimes I see, like, women back home hopping onto this trend, too, even some here. But I think that it's, like, from jealousy, especially when, like, they're back home in India. Because, like, they see how, like, America is portrayed in India movies and stuff. And they, like, want to come here, and they, like, are jealous. The men are jealous, like, we already know that. But, like, there is literally no one way to practice a culture or religion. Like, literally, in human history, it is always fucking evolving. And so, yeah, like, I'm not representing Indian culture. I'm representing Indian American culture.
The freedom that comes to women in America is not bestowed upon us by our South Asian parents. They then want to preserve all this Indian culture. And what I mean by that is now you're in a country, America, where women more or less can wear what they want. Women are dating. Women are divorcing. women are choosing who they want to marry, women move away for college, young women have friends, young women play sports, all of those things. Oh no, my daughter can't participate. Like, they're benefiting, right? But heaven forbid their daughters now get to experience the liberation that comes with America. Instead, we're not even allowed to wear tank tops growing up. We're not allowed to have friends, right? And that's the mind-boggling part of it, is that they want to preserve the submission and oppression of women that existed in the country that they left, in the small towns that they left, and bring it over to America for their daughters. As the excuse of culture will only come up when I, as a daughter, want them to be kind and want them to let me do the things my American white friends were doing growing up. When I want to do something that gives me independence, oh no, that's not our culture. And then it's like, why did you come here? You came here for your benefit and for your family's benefit, but like, you're not letting your daughters thrive in this country. Like, so many South Asian girls aren't even allowed to move away for college. And it's really unfair. And it's so gendered. And I just cannot deal with it.
I've been seeing a lot of Indian Americans complain about how they're not being treated properly or respected properly when they go to India and being mocked for their language. Well, I'm an Indian American singer-songwriter. I was born and brought up in California, and 3 years ago I moved to Mumbai and would shuttle between Mumbai and Chennai because I'm South Indian. So I've worked in the center of the music industry in both states. Bollywood and Collywood, made industry friends with zero help, and I'll tell you how I did it. It was because I stopped making excuses and stopped complaining. I stopped expecting people to treat me different just because I was from America. And that's how it is in every country. When you go to like Japan or when you go to Korea, you don't tell them to speak in English or tell them to like treat you a certain way just because you're from the US. You learn their culture, you learn their customs, you assimilate, and you try to respect, their culture as much as you can. And I had made no excuses. I was probably like 60-70% fluent in Tamil, like nalla pesave. But the way that we speak at home is obviously a little different, and the industry lingo is different. So I had to learn how to speak the industry way, and that meant that I didn't want them to view me as like, professional or like someone from the US. And especially they call like us Indian Americans peated when we speak in English or try to show off, which is, I can totally understand. Tamil is such a rich language. It's one of the oldest languages, and I need to respect the language and where I come from. And so I really tried my best. I would speak and converse in Tamil as much as I can. I mean, we learn Spanish, we learn Japanese, whatever in school. Like, the least that we can do is be as fluent as we can in our mother tongue and stop expecting people to just like make excuses for us. And so this really helped get me like the places that I want to get into and the opportunities that I wanted to, just because I showed up as my honest self and I tried my best and I fit in really well. I was Indian when I was in India, and I was American when I was in America. So I really assimilated very well and adapted very well. The same thing in Mumbai, but Mumbai is a little bit more lax. They don't really expect you to be super fluent in Hindi because most people speak English there. But as far as it was, like, I was a complete local. Like, I would travel by auto every day. I roamed the streets of Bombay. I try to like be as local as I can. I try to learn Hindi. I mean, coming from South India, like especially being Tamil, like I didn't grow up, speaking Hindi as much, but I tried my best. I even did a full interview in Hindi as well. So that's called like just being humble and just trying your best to be as authentic as you can and not being like, oh, I'm from America, like speak English, like a kunjum Tamil therium, like no, mere Hindi bahut acha hai, like no, that does not fly. So yeah, that would be my 2 cents as someone who was born and brought up in California and literally pivoted her life to India by herself. This is how it works.
First of all, I feel like this is an experience for almost all Americans. For example, those Africans who went to live in America and they have been raised in America for years. It's so different how they're treated back in Africa with Africans. This is just something that happens all over among all groups of people. When people do live in a different place, have different experiences, it's not the same with the people back at home. It is always going to be different. There is always going to be tension between these two people. Yes, you're of the same tribe, you're of the same community, you're of the same family, but you have been brought up in different realities, in different areas, in different environments, and so you believe in different things, because environment really shapes what someone believes in. How someone is brought up makes a large percent of who they become in the future. We can't lie about that. And so I've just written down some reasons as to why I think there is this tension between Indians in India, like the real Indians, those who have never gone out of India, and the Indian Americans who have lived in America and they're American citizens. First reason is different lived realities. Indians in India grow up in a culture daily, in terms of language, in terms of caste dynamics, in terms of class pressure. Like, they live in this, they're really in the traditional roads of how things are done or how things are supposed to be. But Indian Americans grow up as a racial minority in the US, and over there nobody cares about culture. They face racism, they face discrimination, they face marginalization. These are the things that bother Indian Americans, but for Indians in India, they care the less about all these other things. What they care about is their caste dynamics. What they care about is their class pressure. What they care about is their language, how people are married, like you see. So different lived experiences, different lived realities. And that's why there is this tension when Indian Americans go back home to India. Of course, they will not be received so well, because they have been brought up in a different environment, in a different realities. And also, I believe Indians are those people who truly believe in traditions, in culture. And so finding that an Indian girl or an Indian man or boy is not doing as what the tradition says, it's like an abomination to the Indians in India. The other reason is identity gap. You see? Indians in India see Indian Americans as privileged and out of touch or too westernized. This happens also to Africans. When one of us lives and goes to live abroad, there is this, is it a stereotype of how people will take this person when he or she comes back? We will see like, you are so privileged, you have so much, you have a lot of money, you have a lot of opportunities as compared to us back at home. We will say that you are out of touch, you are in a different class, you are out of our league. And in the reality, it's not even that way. You might find that Africans who are living back at home are even more privileged than those who have gone to abroad, than those who have lived in America, you see. So this is just like, is it a stereotype or a narrative that people have about those people who go and live abroad? It's not the way we put it. On the ground, these people are suffering. These people are living a life that has a lot of pressure. They have to work, they have to pay bills. But people forget about that. They see this person as so privileged and out of touch, like this person comes from heaven and has many opportunities that us back at home we do not have. So this also happens with Indians from India and Indian Americans. Both parties feel like For the Indians in India, feel like Indian Americans are too westernized, and by too westernized is that they don't follow up to their tradition and cultures. They're out of touch, they're privileged, they have a lot. Indian Americans see Indians in Indians as conservative and judgmental. In America, someone has been growing up following no culture, following no rules, just living life the way it is. But back at home in India, these people do believe in their cultures, do believe in their traditions. You see, that tension between these two groups is what makes them feel like they're not of the same tribe, they're not of the same race, they're not of the same family. It feels like they are two different kind of people. Cultural gatekeeping is another reason, because Indian and Indians have to, as I have told you guys, these are people that believe in culture and tradition. They want things to be done in a certain way. They want, when a girl is married, to follow certain steps, to do certain things. But in America, people just doing things like, who is there to follow up on you and ask you, did you do this step? No one. Indians in India might see Indian Americans as those people who do not follow on culture, who misrepresent their culture, and this might be annoying to Indians in India, because there are people who believe in culture, and when they find that you are one of them but you do things your own way, it might not be well with you. So these are just some of the reasons I feel as to why there is tension between these two groups of people, because they have experienced different realities, they have experienced different environments, and they do things differently. Of course, there is tension between the two, but what I'm here to tell people is that whether someone has gone to live abroad, whether someone is believing in different things, don't be too harsh, don't be too judgmental to this person. Try and understand that this person has grown in a different environment and he or she does things differently, and we can just live as a family without being too judgmental. With that said, let me know your thoughts about this. If you're an Indian American, you can also share your experience. How was it when you went back home, or when you met some Indians in India? How was it? How was the experience? Were you well welcomed back at home, or were they having stereotypes about you? Let me leave it at here. With that said, guys, let's meet in the next video. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share, and I will really appreciate. Bye.